I'm going to leave it up here. What do you need, Joey? Are you coming through? It keeps, I think maybe the signal's losing down there because I look over at it and it's not there anymore. Can you still see?
You can raise it up.
Well, you know, what if I did that?
Because that's in the way.
Well, see, if it's up like that, I can't see if it goes out. Yeah, I need to see if it goes.
You want to sit down, I'll adjust it for you.
Well, I'm gonna see if I can even reach it over here.
Nico, get those snails over there.
Okay, my hands are full. Give me a second and I can help you really. We're going to start over
It's okay.
and we're going to do this.
You can unplug whatever you need to
I'm
unplug.
not going to unplug anything. Let's untangle these cords so that you have
Oh, so we have a little more.
access to what you need. Is that good?
Yeah.
This is still tiny. That's good. And you have what you need. You can move to where you need to.
See if I can even move it.
I'm going to switch this out then. People have seen this a lot.
And I just wanted to tell you that I absolutely loved watching you with Harlan and Nick.
They were so fun.
Because I just, especially with the building of stores, I just let his fish room tours and stuff play over and over again in my fish room. And the way that you were with mentoring me was just absolutely amazing.
We had such a good time, and they did a whole U.S. tour, and then they came back to Seattle, and then they came back. I picked them up at the airport again. The only thing they wanted to do is come back to my fish room, and then they picked my rainbow fish eggs moms to take my eggs back to Australia. I said, these are from Australia. And they go, no, now we can say they're from Dean. So it was so cool. And they're younger than it seems. Harlan was, I think, only 17.
Wow.
I think Nick was like 20, 21. So to see young people like that inspired in the heart, it's really cool.
And that's what I'm a nurse, and I'm a mentor and
Yeah.
baby nurses. And that's what it drove me whenever I was watching you with them.
Exactly.
It was just the way that you were mentoring them.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're fine, Mr. Garrett.
This Oh, this is my show.
It's shut down.
Karen? All right. Very tight and also had a lot of water to air ratio. So just remember, if you have the bags tight, that helps keep them from popping. Also, a ratio of about 1 part water to 2 parts air is good for the bag. You want some water for fish to swim in, but the air holds much more oxygen than the water does. So more surface area to do that is going to be better for the bag. Keep that in mind. Thanks, everyone. Hi, my name's Luke. I'm the president. Hi, Luke. Nico to my left is the vice president. Joey, also to my left, is our treasurer. We are missing the rest of the day. And then from this side onward, I've got Aaron on the board, Matt, Anissa, Jan, Joe, Don. In the aquarium, we've got Jessica. Am I missing anyone else? All right, those are our board members. If you guys have any questions, feel free to see them. I know we've got a lot of new people. Those are going to be the people that know the most and can help you get directed if you have questions.
New board members for next year.
Nominations are now open. You can nominate yourselves. That's totally okay. They are online on the website. The elections will happen in November.
And there's flyers everywhere and withdraw the flyers too if you want to.
There are flyers on tables. If you know of someone, please do not volunteer them without contacting them first. We did have a bit of an issue with that last year, so I wanted to make that clear. Please let them know before you nominate anyone. Once again, let them know first, then nominate them. Thank you. Joey, did you find your people? Not present. Okay. All right. Well, today for our speaker, as I'm sure most of you are well aware, we've got Dean Tweeddale. Someone's really aware. Dean's down here from the Seattle area. Most of you may know him from the Aquarium Co-op YouTube channel as Master Breeder Dean. He's worked with a lot of species over his time. And, well, he's going to tell us about his fry system, how to get things from eggs to fry, and then how to get things from fry grown out to sales size, which I think a lot of us might have some questions on. So without further ado, Mr. Dean Tweeddale.
Let's give this one click. Turn this thing on. Okay, let's do this. Okay, it's on. It's ready. looks good. Yeah. I can hear myself. Will that work? Everybody hear me? Yeah. Man, there's a light right in my face. Oh, if I stand there, you don't see it. I like that. Okay, let's see if I get this. I gotta test this a second here. Okay, there you go. So, I'm down here from the Seattle area. I'm not a professional speaker, but we're gonna have some fun tonight. I'm probably gonna move around a lot because I get really stage fright and all that. But I've been in the hobby for a long time, officially 60 years this year. Started when I was 7 years old. You guys don't want to hear the story that started me, do you? Okay, told this story 100 times. I started with collecting slugs and weeds out of my mom's best friend's garden. And some of you are probably old enough to remember 3-pound coffee cans, or what became known as a number 10 can, right? So for 25 cents, you fill that thing to the top with slugs. And for 50 cents, you fill it to the top with weeds. And then you go into her house and she gives you a cup of lemonade and your money, but on her counter, there was a fishbowl. And I'm 7 years old, and I'm like, wow, that's cool. And she says to me, well, you want some of those guppies instead of A? And I'm like, sure. So I go home with 4 guppies. We have no place to keep them. I think this is even before they ever put chlorine in water officially. And literally, I kept those 4 guppies in the toilet bowl overnight. And I had taped off the door so no one could go in. We had 2 bathrooms, luckily. But that was my start into fish when I was 7 years old. So I got 4 guppies kept in the toilet bowl. We figured out something the next day, and the rest is history. I went from guppies to this at 13, and started selling fish to shops when I was 15 years old. So I have to kind of go back and forth here because the light is right where I'm going to. Let me turn this a little bit here. See if this works. The talk that I'm doing tonight, I have not done a lot. In fact, this is the second time I've officially done it, but I'm putting it together from 2 talks. One is my fry system, which is the whole DIY portion, but and the other is my talk called Scaling Up, which is the fry system and beyond. So if I fumble about a little bit, that's just how it is. But you're going to some food, you know, some other things, maybe some camping and maybe going to Peru. You're going to see a little bit of a lot of stuff. I am, or I shouldn't say I am, my fish room is sponsored by, does this work? Aquarium Co-op, and also by Extreme Aquatic Foods. They both give me stuff for free, but it's usually the stuff that I want. And I also work a lot with Corey on new products that are coming out. But we'll get into that in a little bit. So now, oh, how did that happen? We're not in San Francisco. Sorry about that. I loaded the wrong show. Let's start this all over again. Come on. A mouse quickly. Here we go. Cancel that. Let's go with this one. Okay, let's try again. Where are we at? Right here. Now we're in Sacramento. Okay. And just between me and you, and not so much them, There's more people here tonight than there was last night in San Francisco. So give this guy- I also want to give another person a shout out. Luke pretty much set this all up. He contacted me. He even set up for me to talk to him in San Francisco. So thank you, Luke, for doing all that. You guys, with a good board and a good group, you have a great fun. So just keep that momentum going. Maybe I can read that. So this is kind of what I want to cover along with the fry system. Your purpose for growing out the fry, when to move them, different tank sizes, water, foods and feeding and marketing to the shop, and a few unmentionable things. So some of those are going to get kind of brushed on and some aren't. If while I'm talking you have a question that is pertinent to the slide that's on the screen, ask now so I don't have to try to come back to that. Otherwise, if it's not a pertinent question, I'll be happy to answer all the questions at the end that you want. So where it all began. Over 60 years I've been in the hobby. We already talked about that. My goal has always been to make the hobby pay for itself. And my wife is not a fish person, so some of you guys understand this. If I'm spending our paychecks, she don't like that. But if it's fish money, it's fine, right? So, and I actually started working on a fry system about 35 years ago. I was raising discus and working on raising them artificially, and needed some way of taking care of them when I was gone all day working. So I'll describe that in a minute, but this is what the current fry system looks like and works like. Basically, I have trays that are floating, or not floating, they're hanging in a 20-gallon long tank, and each group of fry, or each spawn is in a tray, and so the 20-gallon tank, I'm filtering it separate from the trays, and the trays are getting a water supply. And so it looks like a whole conglomeration, and it kind of is, but it works really well. And that's what we're going to talk about and work on there tonight. This is kind of how it looks like on the side. And if you notice right here, the filter, that's an Aquarium 70, is creating all sorts of current in the tank, but it's not creating current in the tray. So you can control the current in the tray while filtering the tank. And you don't have to worry about blowing those fry all over the place. That usually results in torn fins and broken backs and fry that are deformed if they have too much current in the result. So that's basically what the fry system is, and we're not going to talk a whole lot about it. A little bit though, because I want to review it. Really? I woke up to that this morning. Okay, so anyway, what I want to talk about is first off the trays. I'm also going to talk about some major things that have happened fairly recently in the hobby to change what I've done and make it easier. So these are some of the trays that I've used in the past. This is the commercially available German spawning ring. These are specimen containers, sterilite bowls, yogurt cups. I actually found that to float the yogurt cup, there happens to be some styrofoam cups, but their top ring just happens to fit. So the trays that I build are right in the middle here. This is from IKEA. I forget, Tricks? Whatever it is, the spawning box. And this was my original tray right here. It looked more like this. And this was a microwave food tray from the 70s. So the microwave food trays we see now in the store, can't use them. They're too flimsy. this is really thick, and I still got these in use. I have maybe a dozen of them left, and they still work really good. The cool thing about this tray is there is no non-smooth surface on the inside. So there's no hard seam at the bottom or on the corners. And that makes it really easy for not just for cleaning, but your fry can't get stuck anywhere. So that's the cool thing about that tray, and that's why I still use it sometimes. Don't use it all the time, but sometimes. And this is the tray that I build myself. It's I designed Linus plastic fish. Hard to find, but you can find them sometimes on Amazon. And what I do to them is I paint them white. White is my color for a tray. I've tried all different colors, blue, black, gray, but white, you can always see if your fry has eaten live baby brown shrimp. And because they're going to have that pink or yellow belly. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the paint, it used to be always recommended to use Krylon Fusion for plastic, but I have found a far better paint. It's called, it's a plastic dip spray. So it's in a spray can, it's made by Plastic Dip. I contacted the company. After it's cured, it's food safe. So I figure if it's food safe, it's fry safe. And it doesn't chip and peel like the Krylon Fusion does. So, so look up that paint if you ever need to paint something in your tank. I've actually painted PVC with it because it comes in white or black, and I think it comes in other different colors also.
Is regular plastic dip also food safe?
I don't know that. I didn't ask that, actually. I wanted to know the spray. Because why would I? Yeah, narrow. I don't know that. Let's leave that at that. So anyway, here's why a fry system. And it primarily started with cichlids for me of all different types. But when cichlids are brooding their fry, the one thing that they do is they always keep that fry in a tight little ball, so to speak, a tight group, such that they can twitch their fins and the fry all hit the deck, or they go in the cave, or they follow the mom to where she wants them to go. They have all different signals that they pick up. And what I realized is if I want to duplicate that, I can't do that in a 10-gallon tank because the fry go everywhere. Even a 5-gallon tank, the fry go everywhere. But in a tray, I can keep those fry really close together. Another little tip that I didn't give at San Francisco last night is if you go to IKEA or online, you can find these little USB spotlights. Is USB the right word? That's what you plug in, right?
Yeah.
Just say, okay, yeah. So you can find these little USB spotlights, and if you point that spotlight at the corner of the tray, certain fish are attracted to that, and that's where you feed them also. So it's another little add-on that you can add on if you choose to. But this is why it works so well is you're putting those fry into a smaller area such that they can find the food that you're feeding them. And with that, you have far better success raising them. Now, that said, I don't know if I can restart this, but you all saw it. There is nothing like watching a pair of fish raise their babies. It's amazing to watch that. However, remember when I said I wanted to make the hobby pay for itself? That doesn't always pay because a lot of times, 3 or 4 days later, the babies become a snack. Whether it's a midnight snack or a morning snack or whatever, or the catfish get them or the buckles get them, they become a snack. So I tend to take the eggs away from the parents and hatch them and use my fry trays to do that. Okay. So, oh, I got it. So this is the thing that has changed, and this is why I'm not doing the whole DIY part. And it's fairly recent in the hobby. I absolutely love it, and it's 3D printing. And my first introduction to this, well, let me first talk about why I like it. It's exciting, experimental, it's engaging. It's bringing in a whole new younger generation of hobbyists, which we all need, because us old guys aren't going to last forever, no matter what they say. It's nearly instant trial and error. So not quite instant, but nearly instant. And you can make it how you want it, and it's also fun. Now, my first introduction to 3D printing was from Lowe's Fish Lab. Is that one? Yeah, right there. I was at the Aquarium Co-op store one afternoon with Corey. The manager walks out with a box, and he says, "This box is addressed to Corey and Dean." And so we open it, and it's his fry trays. I think that's no. I told you to see some food. Get the cookout. I can make a pizza too. So for years, my wife and I have been trying to perfect a pizza crust that can be cooked in a normal oven rather than a 1600 degree pizza oven. And we've come up with it now. And that was one from a couple of weeks ago. Now let's get back to Lowell. So he sent us these trays, and Corey looks at them, and he's not reading any fish right then. He says, "You take them both and try them." So I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take them both and try them." I take them home. I put one of them in the water that night, and Lowell had sent a nice letter with them. In words that meant to me he would accept some feedback. And so I gave him some feedback. And in 3 days, I had another package in the mail with some, I mean, literally, and that's where that thing nearly instant came up, with changes that I thought would make it better. And he kept making it better and better and better. And it's probably, if not the best 3D printed one, one of the 2 or 3 best. And when you determine the best, it's kind of what works for you the best. But this is a game changer compared to making the trays I used to make. Not that I don't like mine anymore, but this is instant, you know. And I had several club members that downloaded your early file, and they would just bring me fry trays, you know. So it was really good for a while. But Lowell made it also air driven, and this is the cool part right here. This part screws into the bottom. You hook your air up, and then you can control the airflow into the tray. Now I happen to use a water pump. So I sent him a message, could we make them without the air thing too? And 3 days later, another package in the mail. It was like, this is like so easy. And I'm like, and I think you're the one that caused Corey to go out and get 3D printed, right? And then Corey started 3D printing. And I don't know, the game's over with that now. So anyway, so you guys don't need to look for Lowe, he's here. So if you need trays, he can hook you up. The cool thing about the air-driven tray is, let's say you have 3 tanks, and you only want to spawn 1 type of fish, or you only have 1 spawn. You only need 1 tray. You might only need it for the first 2 weeks of that fish's life. You can pop this in the tank. It'll sit on top of a 10, a 20. There's some other brackets that will make it hook to a 5. And you don't have to keep it in there permanently. Once those fish are grown up, you can take them out and let them go to the tank. So it's kind of been thought through very thoroughly. If that's the best way I can say it. It's been really thought through all the way to the end user. And I think I can make this work. So this is it in full function now. From the early one that you saw with the corner sponge, the sponge is now on the back. It's easy to switch out. It has an overflow slot right here. There's this little fitting that you can put a piece of airline tubing to get the air right down to the middle of the tray. And I get this asked a lot, why do I need air in the tray if I'm running water into it? Because you don't want in a fry tray that surface film to develop. Because if that develops, you drop any food in, it's going to sit on the surface and the fry aren't going to eat. And so you have to be able to break that up a little bit. Doesn't have to be, I mean, it's barely bubbling there. If you have plecos or cories, you can turn the air up. They love the flow. And they thrive in very oxygenated water. So it's so adjustable that it becomes really easy. And then there's other Etsy shops that make them. I get sent these all the time, and most of them aren't asking for help anymore. They think they've already mastered it. All of these have some good aspects and some bad aspects, and I come back to Lowe's to use it because I don't want to have to deal with trying to fix their issues. This is one that Corey's currently working on, but as you know,
Okay, it's not fair.
yeah,
Wrong porosity.
I know. As you know, that this is the problem right here, you know, they put it right back in. So, but either way, this one does clip to the front, and it's in gray, so it's the wrong color. But this guy is also making the plans, and some of the guys will share the 3D printed plans, or I don't even know what they're called, the files, so that you can print them yourselves if you have a 3D printer. Or there's companies out there that will do 3D printing for you also. Again, from Lowell, blue box. Oops, sorry. Oh, I lost my place.
Yeah, you're good.
Blue bottom. Sorry, I didn't like it. But some people do. Actually, what I'm going to try with that one, something I've never done in my own fry trays, is put sand in it. I haven't tried that, but I'm going to try it. And then this is a bottom. Dang it, I'm going the wrong way. This is a bottom that sits a little bit off of the bottom. So if you have egg scatters like CPDs, zebras, barbs that scatter the eggs will go down. You can net the adults back out after they spawn, and then raise the babies in the tray. So, you know, there's again, I'm coming back to, this is where 3D printing has changed a lot in the hobby. And it's changed it rather drastically, I think. So now let's move on to this one.
By saying change, you mean improve?
Yes. Yeah. So this is why that big X was there earlier. These are some A-frames that are set up to duplicate all of the setup that I did with the bending of the metal and the silicone, capping and threading and screwing. These things do it all. They are actually designed for Aquarium 20-gallon long. They're 3D printed in 3 pieces, I believe. You can see a seam here, and here, and then here. And then this is actually a separate piece if you want it. You don't have to have that piece. And they sit on a tank kind of like this. The PVC pipes literally snap into them or push in from the ends, either way. And they work really, really well. This is another thing that just came to me in the mail one day. Hey, I made these. I tried them out, and I switched my own system to those because they worked so well. And unfortunately, sorry, for you guys, my first addition to your auction is a pair of them. So the guy, I didn't buy these. The guy who actually makes them said, "I'll send you out a set for every talk you do." And so I just donated. Now keep in mind, it's a 20-gallon long Aquarium tank. They fit relatively tight. PVC fits in here really tight, and it'll save you. I mean, truthfully, it won't save me a lot of time because I'm a DIY person. But if you're not a DIY person, it'll save you 30 hours. And they're very cool. So that's the first addition to your auction there. Next, what do we got? Oh, okay. Almost done with all of the DIY stuff, but there's a few more things. And the next one is my pro tip. How many people struggle getting those airline valves drilled in a straight line? Everybody, right? So here's what you do. You have to do this thing in this order. You go to the hardware store, you buy some blue tape. Not green tape, not yellow tape. It's got to be blue tape. And then you stick it to your pipe. Now you have your pipe, and you lay your pipe on your kitchen table that hopefully is flat. And then you take your Sharpie and you lay it on your table and you just go down the pipe, and you have a perfectly straight line down that pipe. Then you mark where you want to drill on that line. So that's my pro tip for drilling. This is actually a homemade spray bar, and all of the holes are just perfectly in line. So, and remember, blue tape. Now, a few other things to consider is, do you have to heat the tank? Keep in mind, you don't have to heat the trays because they're going to be the temperature of the tank. So you have to decide, do I have to heat the tank, or is it in my fish room that has warm enough? Do you need to add extra air stone or sponge filters? What I do in mine is I always keep an extra sponge filter going, because then I know it's cycled, and if I ever need to add it to another tank, I have it ready to go right there. I've also switched my hang-on back filter for a canister filter, because the hang-on back won't fit where I've got the fry tray on my stand. But either one will work for that. And then decide if you're going to drill the tank for overflow, auto top off, auto water change. That's all up to you. Those are things that to consider when you're doing it. Mine is drilled, and it gets about a 15% water change a day. But it doesn't, yes.
The first time I saw your fry system, my first thought was it would be great for half black angelfish.
Yep.
Do you feel that there's validity to the fact that you need a large volume of water to get that half black? And would you change your fry system to promote the growth of finch?
No.
Okay.
No, because they're not going to be in there that long.
Okay.
They're only going to really be in there until they're basically maybe a week on baby brine shrimp, and then you're going to put them in a tank where they're going to. So their fins aren't shooting until they're really about pea size.
Yeah.
And by that time, they're not in the fry tray setting.
Do you think there's validity to larger volumes of water to create that half black effect?
I don't know about the larger volumes of water, but I do think there is validity to the higher tank if you want the real high fins. So like instead of a 20 long, a 20 high, and then instead of moving them to like a 30 breeder, a 40 breeder that's high, or a 29, or a 55 even. All of those have the height. Angelfish, fiscus, they like height. The pistos, yeah.
I couldn't hear his question, so I don't know what you were answering.
Oh, he was asking if the angelfish in the fry tray would lose the height of their fins, but basically they're not in the tray that long. then if the half flat tray was relative to the tank configuration of the flat tray. Okay, where are we at? Oh, that's me. In my 1991 Chevy conversion van, I call it the hippie van. It's all plush inside. And basically, what I want to say with this is, you know, when you're dealing with fish in general, just relax. Don't worry about making mistakes, because you're going to make mistakes no matter what. We all make mistakes. It just happens. This van, and everybody always asks me, why don't you really show a picture of the van? And so there it is. Don't ever tell my wife that her picture was in my show. But this van cost me 1,700 angelfish. Now, think about that. 1,700 angelfish, that's maybe 4, maybe 5 spawns, depending on how well you do. And outside of my normal life, angelfish is my currency. So it cost me 1,700 angelfish. I actually bought it from my father-in-law, her dad. He wanted, and it has less than 100,000 miles on it. It's nearly mint condition. And I bought it during COVID when my wife was the executive director of the San Francisco Ballet, and I was stuck in Seattle, and we weren't seeing each other. So I thought maybe we could get a campground or something like that in between. He had called me one night to ask for her number, and we ended up talking about his van. He says, "Yeah, I got to get rid of it." I said, "Well, I'll buy it." And so we agreed on a price, and then I started breeding angelfish like crazy. And when we actually bought it, my wife was extremely confused because she said, "How are we paying this? How are we paying this?" And my daughter was there. She said, "Don't worry, Mom, it's okay." Because I had filled my daughter in, but not my wife. And so we're driving it back from Spokane to Seattle, which is a 5-hour drive. The first half hour was silent. And then my wife breaks the silence. She says, "I still don't understand." Because she's thinking we spent our money. And my daughter finally said, "It's fish money, Mom. Don't worry about it." So that's where the van came from. And I think that's my last camping slide. So here's what happens with the fry system. The result is hundreds and hundreds of thriving baby fish. And the types of fish that I've raised in it it's too numerous to list, but all sorts of cichlids, live bears, bettas, killies, rainbows, tetras, cories, rice fish, everything. Every fish that has gone through my fish room has probably gone through the fry system, and I've had a lot of fish go through the fish room. It works for all of them. Now, one thing I will say is rainbow fish is a good example, and so is baby bettas. They're too small to take baby brine shrimp when they first hatch. So what I typically do with them is I will keep them in a specimen container, either hanging in the tank to keep the temperature, or if you have a heated room, you can just hang them on the tank. I will keep them outside of the fry system until I've got them eating baby brine shrimp, because they will need like paramecium or green water, vinegar eels maybe first. And I have found that, well, I've experienced, let's say it that way. I did paramecium in my fry system tank one time or 2 times or too many times. And all of a sudden, the whole 20-gallon tank is paramecium to the point where it oxygen starved the fry. So So I found that that's not the way to do it with paramecium. Keep it separate, and then as soon as they're feeding on live bait and brine shrimp and don't need the paramecium, then I move them to the fry tray. So basically what we're doing here is we're going from eggs to that first critical couple of weeks and getting them on live bait and brine shrimp. And I hatch a lot of that. So that's what we're doing. We're getting them onto live bait and brine shrimp. Now we're going to move on to what I started to talk about. That was all your update. Yes.
Do you have any recommendations on brine shrimp eggs since Aquarium Co-op?
No.
Not happening.
I don't recommend any other brand.
We can't get Aquarium Co-op.
I'm sorry.
So,
I know. But I got the heads up on that. And I have a freezer. So I bought literally as many as I could afford and filled my freezer. But this is my honest thought. They are going to get them back. It's a matter of these tariffs that's happening right now. There is a container full of those brine shrimp eggs in China right now. It's just not on the water, and it won't be on the water until the tariffs work. Because he doesn't want to raise the price to $50 a can to cover the tariff costs. If that makes sense to you. So other brands, I don't know any. Someone tried to come up to me after the talk last night and tell me of another brand, and I said, yeah, I tried those, and that's not the brand. So I don't have an answer for you. Sorry. But I do have a freezer, and when you get really desperate, I could probably eBay those cans for $100 now. So, this is just a piece of fish oil I found in the shop, and they wouldn't sell it to me. Oh, take your phones out. You want a picture of this? It's the best and easiest crab bisque you can ever make. Yes.
What percent hydration is your pizza dough?
I have no idea.
Is it wet or is it dry?
Wet. Yeah. Very sticky and wet. And I get in trouble for trying to toss it.
Been there.
I mean, it's okay if it splats a little bit.
Yeah.
But we have a dog. So when you push it back together and then all of a sudden you're, well, what is that? Oh, it's dog hair. Anyway, best crab bisque recipe. We bought a second house on the Oregon coast, and I put the crab pots out every time I go down and get done with this crab. So let's get into the meat of this thing. What is your purpose for growing out the fry? And it could be many different things. I'm going to name basically 3 of them. The first would be you're growing out fry to fill your own tanks, not to sell. You don't need 500 of them. You might need 35 or 40 or 50. You want a school of something. And that's a valid purpose for growing out fry. That's a good reason to just get one of Lowe's fry trays, because that's all you would need. Second reason is if you have a more rare fish that you want to conquer, so to speak, you want to breed it, discus are habitual egg eaters, and they eat their own fry a lot. So it's a relatively tough fish even today, throughout the years. So that's your second reason. And the third reason would be to grow out a big group of fry that you're going to move to a store, bring to the club auction, sell to your friends, and try to make your hobby pay for itself. So those are your reasons, kind of the 3 main reasons for growing out fry. But you have to have that in your mind, why you want to do that first. And then when to move the fry. I get asked this question more than anything else about the fry system, and it's very subjective. But basically, You can move the fry anytime you feel that they can fend for themselves. So can they search in a 10-gallon tank for a live baby fry shell? Do they eat some fry powder or other small fry food besides fried shell? Are they big enough to fend for themselves in a tank? And so it's a little bit subjective, but generally speaking, it's between 2 and 8 weeks. Now that's a long ways apart, but different fry grow at different paces. And some fry grow really slow, and then they all of a sudden have a spurt of growth. So, so there's no one answer to when you can move the fry. You know, these fry are probably a ½ inch long. They're little gold plecos. They could probably have moved out of the fry tray earlier. This is just a smaller group, but I let them be in the fry tray longer, so because I didn't have a tank ready for them. And these guys are L397s, the candy stripe pleco. They were in the fry tray. I only had 14 of them, I think. They were in the fry tray until they were an inch long. So it's very subjective. I did, by the way, have a debate with Corey about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe, because he had me come up and set up a fry system at his place, and he wanted to do, instead of, like I do 4, 5, 3, maybe 6 trays when I'm really cramped, and he's wanting to do 7 skinny trays. And I want you to think about this. If you have 7 skinny trays full of fry, you have to have 7 empty tanks that they can move out to in a couple of weeks. And then you're going to fill those trays with fry again, and now you have to have 14 empty tanks. So do you need 7 trays? And I think I changed this tune, but you don't need it. 2 or 3 trays is great for an average fish room. I rarely have more than 4 going, and that's just you got to think about that with your own system. What will work for you? This happens to be the last dessert before you go out collecting on the Amazon. I told you there'd be a little bit of collecting, right? You know. So I ordered a brownie with vanilla ice cream. It's not vanilla ice cream, right? Exactly. And I didn't order chocolate sauce or a piece of chocolate or caramel sauce.
You got it.
But they like to try to impress you. So I got strawberry ice cream. It was still the best dessert because I was going to go out on the Amazon for 2 weeks, and who knows what we can get out there. So, okay, tank sizes. The ones that are my favorite are the 10s for raising fry. We're talking about raising fry after the fry system. 20-gallon longs and 20-gallon highs. 40-gallon breeders, and I do have 75s. 75s I use more for like show tanks than raising fish. 10s are my favorite for getting them going because you're still keeping them kind of compact to the food. All of my tanks get about 10 to 15% water change a day, and it's all automatic. But 20-gallon highs come back to the fish that grow this way, and that includes like angels, discus, sometimes grams, any of the more compressed fish that grow up. The 20 longs work great for apistos, any longfish, tetras, grasboras, stuff like that. The 40-gallon breeders are great if you have a big batch of fry that you want to grow. You can move them into there. I've grown 400 electric blue cars out in a 40 breeder, and they've all done good. You never sell 400 at a time, so I would net 50 out, take them to the store, next 50 out, take them to the store, and I would always take the bigger ones, and then the other ones catch up. So the sizes that are really good, but that are less popular, are the 15-gallon, the 5-gallon, the 2-gallon. I do sometimes raise rainbows in gallon jars at first. 15 gallons, in my opinion, is a great size. It's way too expensive. And it never goes on that. Well, we can't even call it $1 per gallon sale anymore. But it never goes on that sale. But it's a cool size. Tiger shovel nose. Is it in a food fish or in an aquarium fish? So it's sold in a lot of stores as an aquarium fish, but it gets gigantic. This one, not this one, but we had another one that we caught where my buddy shoved his arm down his mouth this far without touching anything. I mean, it's all mouth, and they eat by suction. But while we're out collecting fish, there's always crew left on the boat, and their first job is they completely wash the boat every day. They make your beds, sweep your cabin. The boat is washed with Dexo every day, so they treat you very well. But then they go fishing with their rod and line, and we get this for dinner. Now, tiger shovel nose, in my opinion, is the best tasting freshwater fish I've ever had. And I've had a lot. I grew up fishing for trout and bass and all that stuff. This stuff is amazingly good. Okay, we gotta move on here. Okay, water. Do you guys have, by the way, I need to know really quick, chloramine in your water? No, you can't have it. Okay. So, if you have chloramine in your water, I'm sorry. I can't do a lot for you because it's hard to break that bond other than do really small water changes and hopefully it dissipates. But I'm lucky I don't have it. I hardly have enough chlorine to do tests. But first off, you need to find out, can you use your tap water? And I do not like manufacturing water because I feel like it becomes very inconsistent. So I don't like that if you have to. I don't even like the African cichlid people where you have to add cichlids on. That frustrates me. So I just adapt my fish to my tap water. Then you got to talk about how are you going to filter it. Are you going to use sponge filters? Underground filter. How many people have heard of underground filter? How many people have used one? Yeah, they work amazing, and they kind of disappeared from the hobby. I believe I'm going to make them have a comeback because they work so well, and you don't have to vacuum the gravel all the time. If you have some quarries in there with them, they'll take care of that for you. You also have to decide: do you have to have a heater in the tank, and how you're going to do water changes. In a fish room situation, I would encourage anybody to get some sort of auto water change system. It's a game changer for your time. And we've all heard the thing, time is money, but it's not just that. It frees up your time to watch the fish, to maybe set up a breeding tank, something like that. So, and there's all sorts of YouTube videos about that. If that guy Lowell, I think he's around here. he could probably make a really thorough video about how to set up a lot of water changes. Because his videos are really good. I need that cough drop pretty soon. Okay. Water changes are a necessity. No matter what anybody on YouTube tells you, water changes are a necessity. Water changes are a necessity, no matter what anybody says. There was a time when we were in Peru with Tori, and Tori liked to go out in the middle of these streams and just sit and cool off. And I shot this short video of him sitting in a stream, cooling off. And I asked him specifically, Corey, how many gallons of water do you think that these fish are being changed every minute? And we were guessing it was probably hundreds and hundreds of gallons of water going by the fish. And now we're putting those same fish in a 10-gallon tank and saying we're not going to change their water for a week. No, they get tons of water changed. By the way, this is a famous French painting, and I first saw it in a bathroom, of course, a boys' bathroom. And the caption translates to "Don't drink the water," and the fish are running away from whatever's going on in the water there. Huh? Sorry, I gotta get this in my mouth or I'm gonna cough forever. Okay. Okay. Did that show up? There you go. What do you guys think? You want one? Yeah?
Question about water, do you use conditioner?
No. I think that's that. Yes and no. When the water goes through my auto water change, it goes through a carbon block filter, which is my chlorine level is less than 0.02. So, and I have no chlorine, so that pretty much wipes all of that out. If I'm setting up, say it's like a 40 breeder, brand new, which I do, completely clean it out, reset it, so to speak, then I'll use some. Because I don't run that through the carbon block, it's carbon hose. Does that make sense?
There's pros and cons. Some people say always use it. Others say don't use it.
Right.
Never. Because of the after 6 or 8 months.
I don't know. I've done it both ways. Like I said, my auto water change I don't. But if I'm resetting a tank with a garden hose, I will put a little bit of it.
I would wonder if my water is different types, and I use tap water all the time.
Yeah.
And it works.
If it works, it works. Don't worry about it. Yes.
You can't hear what he's asking, so
Oh, he was asking if I used water conditioner, like Prime or something like that. And my answer was most of my water goes through a carbon block, so I use nothing. But if I'm setting up a new tank, or sometimes I just basically break down a tank, wash it out, clean all the filters, put all new water in, then I will use some conditioner, and then it'll go back to the water change system. But let's get back to this green thing up here. An aquarium co-op commercial. I do these in all of my talks, and unfortunately, you guys are going to get one too. So, it's going to be a sponge filter game changer, and that is the easy flow system. This thing was developed, it started with a 3D printed part, and then it evolved into this. And it works amazingly well. First off, there is no airline tube going down the center of the sponge filter tube. It's going through the air collar, which is right here. And so all of the tube can lift water. Second off, the bubbles are super fine, so you don't get that gurgling sound. It's very quiet. That kind of thing, Corey, you probably, if you've ever listened to Corey's videos, he does not like noise in the background. Period. And he will spend thousands of dollars to eliminate the smallest sound from the background. So the small bubbles was a big thing. And then the third thing is this directional flow is a bonus if you want to use it. Works really good, and again, it's super quiet. There's no gurgling. The other thing that's really cool is it now comes in black, with smoke black piping and fine sponge. So you no longer have to have the coarse sponge. I happen to like the fine sponge better for several reasons. But a lot of people will also like the coarse sponge because the coarse sponge doesn't burn up the teeth. So there you go. It's a game changer. And I happen to have one of the new ones for the auction. Yes.
I've got a couple of these from Karen Fox. The only thing I wish is they had a screen for sale on the
I'll tell you how to do that. So you go online and you buy the correct size plastic bio balls. Okay, so now they're round, right?
Yeah.
But they're molded in two pieces and pushed together. You take them apart, cut the little nibs up, and super glue them onto the end of the pipe. It works great. I do the same thing with my mat filter ends if I'm doing plecos in that tank to keep them from swimming behind it. So that'll work.
Dave,
Yes,
I have trouble keeping those filters from clogging.
The air collars.
The air collars.
a lot of people do that. I don't have that problem. I've had one clog ever, but here's what you do, is get yourself some white vinegar and soak them in it. And then get a syringe and hook a little piece of airline to it and pump the syringe in and out, and it'll clear all the holes. It works amazing. And the white vinegar is pretty harmless in the tank. Now, in my case, the one that I had clogged, I literally didn't even take it out of the tank. I just hooked the syringe to the airline tubing and went back and forth several times, and it was like new again. But people that do have a lot of hardness to their water, especially calcium, I've heard will get those to clog up. But I don't have that issue, so I'm lucky. Oh, the other thing, they now sell replacement sponges by new. Before you had to buy a whole new filter, and I talked to a few of you out here about my Medaka ponds being torn up by the raccoons. Well, they tear my sponges up, and now I can just replace the sponges because they don't tear the plastic up. Are we done with the co-op? No, we're not done with the co-op. There's two other cool new products. One is these live or easy community pellets. These are very similar to extreme nano pellets, which is one of my favorite foods of all time. But these float for the most part. So they're very similar, but they float. And then the Magic Small Fish Feed is amazing. It's, in my opinion, it's as close as you can get to replacing dry baby brine chicken. If you really don't want to have it. Your fish will do fine on it. It's not perfect, but it's as close as you're going to get. So if you're raising a lot of fry, I would get this one first and try it. And then, you know, when they're bigger, these are a little bit bigger. So there we go. So, oh, that brings us right into foods and feeding. That worked pretty good, actually. I have to remember that. So, my hands down, absolute number one food for raising babies is live baby brine shrimp. Hands down. And as you can see, I've used a few cans. That window's full now, but this will cause your fry to grow faster than any other food. And every professional breeder out there that you know, every master breeder, they all fed lots of baby brine shrimp. I hatch about a tablespoon a day, so one of these cans might last me a week and a half. So you don't have to do that for a small batch. Even for a small, you might be hatching a half a teaspoon a day. But you need to learn how to do that. You can always tell that they're eating live baby brine shrimp by their fat pink bellies on the white background of the tray. And even as they get bigger, these are like diamond nickel-sized discus. They just absolutely love this stuff, and they will fill their bellies completely full, and they'll continue to grow. This is actually how I do it. I have two of these Zis hatchers going at all times, and I do 36-hour hatch rates. So I also feed dry foods, a lot of dry foods. Most of them are from Extreme. They are a sponsor of mine. But there is a reason I like their food, is because they use all natural ingredients mostly for as much as they can. So in a dry food, there's different components. One is the attractant, and Extreme primarily uses krill for that. The second is the actual food itself, what it's made from, whether it's soulfly larvae or tubifex worms. And then the third is if there needs to be any carrier. And you want the carrier to be the last ingredient on the list, not the first. So, so I use a lot of Extreme. I use some dry powder. This is a little gizmo that I made out of inverted worm feeding cone with a stainless steel washer to weight it down. And I put the cubes of freeze-dried worms in there, and the baby cories and the adult cories just flock to it. And just suck them out of it. That, by the way, I think there's one more thing in this bag. Brings me to my third. Extreme nano pellets are going to go into option 2. This is a lot of them. I forget what one of these is valued at, but I think it's over $30. So thanks to Extreme for that. And let's keep moving. I also feed some frozen foods. I got asked last night if I ever fed live adult brine shrimp, and the answer is no, because the frozen is so much easier, and it's not a live baby brine shrimp. So the three that I use most are frozen bloodworms, frozen brine shrimp, and frozen cyclops. There's a myriad of other ones out there, but those are the three that I use the most. Okay, did I mention live baby brine shrimp? Yeah.
No, you forgot.
I forgot that. You gotta have live baby brine shrimp to raise fry. Okay, other live foods. This is always a hot topic. The first three listed there I do not use. all for different reasons. I'm not saying they are a bad food. I've always ended up with various diseases or fish with worms by feeding them tubifex or blackworms. Blackworms also come from other leeches a lot of times, but I basically just, I don't need that in my fish room. I want my fish room to be cleaner than that. However, if you have a really difficult fish, blackworms are probably your number one worm to feed to trigger them to spawn. Do I do that? I don't do that, but there are people that I know who do that. The reason I don't eat microworms is a weird reason. It's my own reason, and I'll explain it to you. I was raising a lot of baby cories, and I would feed them microworms like everybody else does, right? And I would end up with batches of baby cories with no larvae. And this is my thought process. It only happened when I fed them microworms. And my thought process is this: microworms are a nematode that can live in freshwater for a while, and they're probably still eating, even though they're in freshwater. Baby cories don't move at light speed, and they might land on a group of these microworms, and their larvae might get a little nips, and then it locks, and then I end up with no larvae. That's my thought process. Eric's not here tonight, but I need to verify that was him somehow, or him to try that maybe. But that is just my experience, and that's why I don't use them. Whiteworms, brindleworms are both really good. Not always the easiest to take care of those cultures. I was recently in Huntsville, Alabama, and there was a guy there with whiteworm cultures in, the normal plastic shoe boxes, where the whiteworms were literally an inch thick. He literally could reach in and only have whiteworms in his hand, and a handful. And I asked him what he does, and his difference is he said he had adapted them to basically basement room temperature, so about 65 degrees, and he feeds them bread spread with yogurt. Yeah, but it's not just yogurt. It's yogurt.
Kefir. I've heard like a kefir.
No, it's basically plain yogurt. That's what I'm trying to say. So not flavored, just plain Greek yogurt. And I said, well, how long did it take you to get them interested? He said, lots of bread, lots of yogurt. So most of us don't feed them enough. And he says, never leave it in there if it gets some mold on it, get it out right away. But he had like 8 or 10 of these boxes with worms an inch thick. And I'm like, holy crap, that's a lot of weight. So those are both good. Vinegary eels, I always have going. I do not harvest them how you see everybody doing on YouTube, with cotton balls or coffee filters. I use 10, 15, or 25 micron seed that I got off of eBay or Amazon, and I just pour them through. It takes a while. I just pour them through, then I go do some other thing. I come back, I pour the liquid back in the jar, and rest them and feed them. So I'm not dealing with all the coffee filters and all that. It makes it really easy. I also tend not to use Infusoria or green water. Both of them are really good foods. I can't keep green water alive for my black thumb or whatever. It just does not work in my. I don't have enough of that stuff out there, the sunshine, to keep green water alive. And I would rather go with paramecium than the Infusoria. So I have a pure culture of paramecium. I'm using 2 different ways of doing it. I can use rabbit pellets, which is a little bit messy, or I use I think they're called wheat berries. Some of them are called wheat berries. And I boil them, add them, and then if you want to trigger the culture to explode, so to speak, or bloom, you can add a little tiny bit of brewer's yeast, and you can have tons overnight, or 8 or 10 drops of milk for a half a gallon of water. Both of those are basically just foods that are feeding the bacteria, and the paramecium grows off the bacteria, not off the food. Oh, once again on the boat, they clean the deck when we're gone, and they go fishing, and they always want to show us their sport. Look what we caught while you were out catching minnows, right? I mean, we're out there catching tetras, and this is like 2.5 foot pleco. Now, they can actually live out of the water for several hours. So these actually did go back in the river. And I say these because this is the low on the chain crew member, and here's the chief. He says, okay, he got that one, but look what I got. So he's got a 3-foot one. So it's, you know, when you go down there collecting, you got to plan on having a good time also. Okay, marketing. Okay, selling versus trading for credit. This is going to be most people's #1 challenge. And I learned this long time ago that most shops want to give you credit. Why? Because it's extremely beneficial financially to them. But it's also really not beneficial to you. Because if you actually do the numbers, you know, write it out on paper, you know, I'm selling them a fish, but I'm trading them a fish at a value of $3. They're selling it for $15, and then I go to buy stuff from them, and I'm paying full price. All of a sudden, what I'm getting for credit has gone down to about 10%, approximately. So, how do you end up selling to them is developing a long-term relationship. Doesn't happen the first time, the second time. You might have to trade them for shippers. But over the long haul, if you treat them well, talk to them about what you have coming up, then you can gain their respect. And what I typically do is I just basically say, look, I don't need anything today. I don't need any products. I don't need any food. Why don't you just treat me like one of your big suppliers, so to speak? And I mean, I had one shop that I had grown up in the hobby with the owner, and his son had taken over the shop, and I had never ever taken that shop to fish. And one day I'm in there talking to his son. He says, well, you take fish to everybody because I've seen your videos. Why did you bring it to me? I said, because your dad will only give me credit. I said, if you want to pay me, you know, like a supplier, I'd be glad to bring you fish. He says, really? And I was bringing him fish from then on. So sometimes it's just how you talk to them. And don't talk to them in front of other customers. You know, get them off in a corner where it's more private, or arrange an appointment to talk to them. But work with them and kind of make them work with you, and make them understand that you're in for the long haul. You're not just trying to avoid getting credit. Size considerations is important when you're taking them to the shop. All of us have seen what size fish in shops are. That's the size they like to buy them at. I personally like to take them to a shop smaller than what they normally buy for 2 reasons. One, I haven't spent all my time and money on food and water on them. And the other is it's easier to sell them or I want them to sell them smaller to you guys, the customer, so the customer has that grow out experience. I feel that that's very important. Is individuals, kids, whatever, whoever buys those fish should learn to grow those fish out. So I tend to try to take them smaller. Discus, I would like to take them at nickel and dime size. Angelfish, never bigger than dime size. And I'm talking about the body size when we talk about that size. And the other thing is a lot of fish, especially rainbow falls in this category. They don't color up small. So it's really hard to sell what's that? Those Canine rainbow at 1 inch. Because there's no color. But if you breed the right rainbow, like for example, Cray Cox rainbows, which I'm always breeding in that fish room, they color up at 1 inch, and the shops will take it at that size. So think of that when you're deciding what you want to breed and what you want to sell is what the shops will actually take from you. And sometimes you have to have a conversation with the shop owner before you start a breeding project. Because you want to know that there's an outlet before you get into it. It's so deep that you're buried in baby fish. I've been buried in baby fish several times. Health is also important. Brings me to one of my things. Can everybody read that? I can't, but I can't over here. So it basically says, never, ever, ever bring a shop sickly, skinny, or scrawny fish. Never. Your name is on that fish as soon as it's in their water. And if it dies the next morning, you're done with that. I mean, you don't get 3 strikes, you're out with a fish shop. They don't believe in your fish anymore. So healthy fish. One of the things I used to always do with my rams before they went to a shop is typically you would raise rams at about 86 degrees, but shops typically keep them at about 78 on the average. They don't really, a lot of them don't even put feeders in ram tanks. So what I would do is the week or two before I knew those rams were going to leave my fish room, I would drop the temperature. And so that they were accustomed to the lower temperature before they left my tank. And so, you know, the bottom line is I want to give the shop the Nordstrom guarantee, but Nordstrom isn't around to guarantee anymore. But I wanted to give them that guarantee that if there's a problem with my fish, I replace it. And I've actually gone into a shop where I've sold angelfish to, and I found angelfish of mine that I didn't properly look at, and I told them, you got to get rid of that one right now, and I'll bring you more. And they're like, no, someone will buy this. I said, no, it's not a good angelfish. It has to be gone, such that my name is not on that fish. So never, ever, ever skinny, sickly fish. Oh, I know what that is. That's a prime rib, by the way. My last official job, I was a chef instructor. And in my family, for the last about 35, 40 years, we always have prime rib one time at the holidays. I don't know why we don't do it the rest of the year. We should, because it's so good. But that was last year. Moves us on to the, I can't talk about this subject. We can skip over this. We don't like to talk about this subject. It's an important subject, though, and that is failures. All of us that consider ourselves advanced aquarists, advanced breeders, master breeders, anything like that, we have had more failures than successes. And we just have to move on from that because we're dealing with fish that are fragile. I mean, I've had the discus plague years ago in my fish room where almost every fish died overnight. And you're like, what do I do now? You know, get a bunch of bleach. That's all you could do, right? So, so failures is something that is going to happen. Fish die. When I'm out of town, like speaking here, I have a friend who goes to my fish room every day and feeds my fish. And we have a system where I communicate what he wants to put in each tank. But every day I get a message from him. Fed the fish, 1 DOA in the ram tank or whatever. He's always reporting to me the dead fish. And I never respond to the fact that there was a dead fish. Because if you've got 10, 15,000 fish in your fish room, odds are at least one of those is going to die every day. Whether it's a fry, whether it's a dime size, whether it's a belly slider, it's just going to happen. So it's just, and in nature, that number would be way, way higher. So it's just a fact of what happens. And the other thing is, going along with this is a word that we don't really like to say in the hobby, but it's culling. Now, culling is basically taking the fish that don't meet your standards and somehow either destroying them, feeding them to a bigger fish, giving them to the turtles, clove oil, whatever it is. But it's a process of eliminating that fish from the fish room. And that goes right along with the sickly fish, where you never bring to shop. You don't want to bring a fish to a shop that is not a perfect specimen, so to speak. Because if you do, they're not coming back to you. You want them to come back to you. So it's just a process that we have to go through as advanced aquarists. And even though we don't want to do that, and no one really wants to do that, but it's a necessity. You have to be able to do that. So are you guys all confused now?
How do you call your fish?
I keep some turtles, and they become turtle fish basically. I used to keep some larger fish that would eat the smaller fish, and they would become fish. In nature, I mean, I've literally collected fish in Korea. We use about that's about a 2 or 3 gallon collecting bucket. And so as you're collecting, you put all your fish in the bucket. When you get back to the boat, I've actually found fish that I collected have eaten other fish I put in the bucket. They have them sticking out of their mouth. So fish eat fish. That's their dinner. I mean, there's a few that are vegetarian, but most of them, if there's a fish in front of them in their mouth, it's going in. So I am not a believer in the clove oil, that's an online thing where you can put them to sleep with clove oil. I would rather do something that happens more naturally in the industry or in the world of fish. So that's what I do. There's other people who put it in the freezer. You know, that is a very certain depth. But I find it you have something else that never let someone talk you out of, oh, I'll take all your clothes. Because then they're going to go and say this. They're going to breed them, they're going to have some conformity, and they're going to say, oh, I got these from Dean. And then my name is on that fish forevermore. And I don't want that. Make sense? Okay. So, if you're confused and you need help.
What's your cull rate?
What's my what?
Cull rate on average.
Depends on the fish. Angelfish, probably 10%. Rams, maybe 5%. Discus, maybe 2%. Cories, hardly any. Plecos, hardly any. And any of the tetras, Grasboras, Danios, you get some back deformities in those, but not very many. So yeah.
if you bring stuff in, how many generations of like higher culling rate does that happen?
I try to add new blood within 4 generations. Doesn't always happen, and I'm suffering with that right now with my angelfish because they're not laying any fertile eggs anymore. And I'm literally 9 years into that fish now. So, yeah. So this is where you can find me, either Instagram at Dean's Fish Room, Facebook Dean's Fish Room with my name. I get approximately 200 messages a day. So if your question isn't pertinent, it might not get answered. It's not that I hate you or anything like that. It's just I know you can find that answer without me. If it's pertinent, I still might not get to that message for a week. So just be patient. Eventually I will probably get there. But you can also find lots of great experience right here within your own club. There's a lot of advanced aquarists here. I can see by their faces. And there's a lot of information right within your own club where you can draw information from. The number one thing is just reaching out, saying, hey, I'm doing this and this isn't working, or I'm doing this and it is working. You don't have to go and give them a whole speech. It could be just a conversation across the table. Okay, a couple more slides here and then we can go home. This is actually the coolest thing I ever saw collecting in Peru in the wild. We had parked our big boat across the river, and I wanted to get some CW 123 corridors, and they were said to be on the sandbar on the other side of the river, and they come in at night because that's when the sandbar has warmed the shallow water, and they come in and spawn at night. So I convinced the staff to take the small boat across the river literally at 2 in the morning. And we go across, my wife, my daughter, 2 staff guys, and one guy from the UK. We go across, we run the seine one time. I get about 100 or more, maybe 150 of these quarries in one seine. So we pack them up. Now, the shipper that we use will take all the extra ones that you don't want to take home. So we kept them all, and then they gave the shipper about half of them. And it just is a little bit of goodwill to that shipper to do a good job for you guys. So as we're getting back in the skiff, I'm shining the light into this, across the sandbar, into this vegetation along the edge of the sandbar. And my wife goes, wait, go back. Because she saw 2 eyes. And it was this guy sitting there. We had no cameras or anything with us. So we saw him, so we said, okay. We take the skiff back, unload, get the camera, and of course at that point, there was 2 high school kids on the boat. Everybody wanted to go see him. So we all go back over there. My wife, my daughter said, we're not getting out of the boat. And my daughter is actually the photographer in the family. So I said to her, I said, okay, but listen, you need to set the camera up. So all I have to do is click the shutter. Because I'm not going to be able to do any fiddling around trying to get a picture of this thing, right? So he's still there, or she, I'm not sure. I don't even know how to tell. Anyway, so we're on this sandbar, and we're probably here all the way to the far exit away from this guy. And if we separated, like one of the high school boys started walking down the beach, this guy would get up and walk that direction. And if the kid came back, it would go back and sit down in its spot. And, you know, if someone walked the other way, it would get up and start walking that direction. And I'm like, whoa, you know, this is a serious animal, right? So then it's like, how do I get a picture, right? And I was standing like I am right here. He's over there, and I'm not close enough. And I've got a smart-ass high school kid here, and a smart-ass high school kid here, and the guy from UK on the end. And I said, well, you know, we need to get closer. So I take a step. And the high school boys are saying, I'm taking 2 steps. And I'm not letting these boys beat me, right? So I take 5. And pretty soon, I'm from here to you, from this animal. And the high school boys are saying, I don't know if we're taking any other steps. And the guy from the UK is going, we're getting a little close. So I whispered under my breath to him, all we have to do is trip one of them. And that's what was going through my mind at that time. And then I needed all the lights, so we had like 5 flashlights shining on me while I'm taking these. I took about 30 pictures and one came out. And but it was really cool. The other cool thing about that is the owner of the boat happened to stay in town that night. His name is Devin, and he'd never seen one in the wild. So every time I go back, I remind him. Okay, let's get this wrapped up here. You got a fish room project or a hobby project, a house, any project. Getting started and you're half done. If you never start doing the dishes after dinner, how long do they sit there till the next morning, till the next night? So all you got to do is get started, and then you will get it done. Next, I'm going to give you my best advice ever. It's my 3 P's. Oops, click the wrong button. 3 P's for fish breeding. Patience, practice, and perseverance. So 2 things. You have to be patient with yourself and also patient with the fish. I've had electros that I've actually had in tanks for 7 years before I got my first spawn. Now, in that 7 years, that tank saw lots of Craycops rainbows over the top of them, angelfish, rams growing with them. So it wasn't a waste of tank space, but you never forget to feed them also. They eat also, and so after 7 years, I finally get a spawn. And so you need to have patience, especially with some of the plecos, because a lot of them take a long time to mature. Practice, 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 practice. So even with the fry system, you're going to set it up and you say, everything died. You got to do it again. Everything died. You got to do it again. You got to keep doing it, and don't wholesale change. You know what I mean by that? Don't change everything. Change one thing you're doing to something different. That way, you have a control. But practice, practice, practice is really important. And then you have to persevere. You're going to have failures. We all have failures. Don't give up. Just keep going, trying again and again and again. And persevere through the hard times. And it will happen. Pretty soon you're going to bring bags and bags of fish to the auction. And stores that get bigger fish and all that sort of stuff. Again, that's where you find me. This is a sunset in Peru on the Amazon. Another with my puppy. He likes it. And with that, you know, I'm actually hoping tonight that, you know, I kind of gave you some thoughts to chew on, something to put in your mind, something to think about, and some inspiration. Inspiration is the thing I want to pass on in the hobby more than anything else, because we all need inspiration in our life. So with that, I just want to say thank you. Yeah, Luke, do we have time for questions?
Please, go for it. Who's got questions?
Speak loud. Nobody. Yes.
I'm not using the fry trays, but I tried using the Fluke breeder boxes on a community tank, and I've had like a 0.5% success rate with corians.
Right.
Does it work? Is the problem it's coming from the community tank, the water from the community tank?
Not necessarily. That's getting into two of the P's.
Yeah.
Practice
P
and
and
perseverance.
Yeah.
Those boxes will work fine. I've got 3 or 4 totes full of them. I find that the trays work better. And the recirculating water, as long as that water is clean, but it's probably more so, you might not be getting, if they're cories, you might not be getting enough flow going through. They like flow, and at the same time, they eat more food than what you think. One of the foods, by the way, that I showed in the co-op, the magic small fish food, is really, really good for baby cories, because it will stay in suspense, but then it'll settle eventually, and they just plow through it. So that's what I would suggest.
Maybe my flow.
Yes.
In the videos of you, whenever you guys were collecting the quarry, I noticed a lot of videos of you trying to catch you fall off the little plank coming down. Did anyone ever fall off, and how was the Pleco soup for breakfast?
Okay, the question is, when we got off the boat in Peru, did anybody actually fall off the plank that we walked down? And she also wanted to know how the Pleco soup tastes. So the answer is yes. It was caught on video, but Corey will never put that video in one of his videos. Corey's a big guy, and he's fallen more than once on the plank coming off the boat. And in fact, one time we were in a little community, well, not a community, part of the Iquitos called Lem, which they really don't want a white person coming in there, but we were trying to trade with the fishmonger, or the people that do breed fish there, and they had a plank going out to their like floating house, or floating boat, whatever you call it. And the plank broke under Corey. So he went from there into the mud. But again, I've actually encouraged Corey to put out a bloopers video, so to speak, because there was a time when we were building his fish room with all of the totes, and I was walking on top of the ladder, flat laying down, and Jimmy was filming, of course, and he's going, "Team, be careful, be careful." I said, "Oh, I do this all the time." And then I missed, and I still have scars on the front of my leg. Took 6 inches of skin off, and Jimmy's got it all on film, but Corey's never put it out on video. And I'm like, and there's times when all of a sudden, the F-bomb comes out, and this would be big. I told Corey, people love bloopers reels. You got to put one out. He won't do it. He won't do it. So, and the follow-up, the Pleco soup. So, how they make Pleco soup? They use these Plecos that are about 12 inches long. They're our common Pleco that we see in the stores. The gut is on the bottom, and they just basically cut a round circle and pull the gut down. And then all of the Plecos go in a big pot that they've made a broth in. And I don't know entirely what's in the broth. And then they cook them. And then when they serve them, you get a bowl with the head down in the bowl and the tail out, and they fill it with broth. Now, to eat it, you're supposed to pull the skin off first, pick the flesh off and eat it around the bones, and you don't really eat the whole skull and the fins and all that, but you eat the broth. Now, you want to know what it tastes like, right? I knew that. So, the meat of the pleco, when cooked like that, has the consistency of canned tuna fish. So it's a little bit mushy, but there is a little bit of chew to it, so to speak. But it tastes like the bottom of the river. Let's just say that. It doesn't taste too good. However, you know, they're serving it to you, you gotta eat it, right? So, and it's typically a breakfast dish. It's not a lunch, it's a breakfast or brunch dish. But here's the kicker. The broth is to die for. You can eat, I mean, I drank my whole bowl of broth. I literally took the pleco when the staff wasn't looking, flung it out the window, and I drank the broth. The broth is absolutely, I know there's carrots and celery and, well, they don't really have celery there. There's carrots and onions and other vegetable matter in it, but it is to die for. It's not a vegetable broth, it's not like chicken stock, but it's a broth, and it's to die for. So, pleco, yes.
What's the name of the company that you went with?
So in Peru, I come with two different companies. One is Go Wild Peru. That's the trip when you go into the Andes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And Ian's running that now. Michael was running it when I went. And then the other is MT Amazon Exhibitions.
That's the one with the boat.
Yeah, that's the one with the boat. I've been on that one 4 or 3 times, and once in the Andes. They're different types of trips, by the way. The boat trip, you're going to get muddy every day. And then the other trip to the Andes, you're traveling by van to different locations. So. Anybody else? Yes.
At the Rye food place, I didn't see Russian daphne. You have an opinion?
Yeah, I can't keep it alive. In fact, hardly any people in Seattle can keep it alive. I think only 1 or 2. But that said, if you can keep it alive, it's great. Fish they attack it, right? And the way it moves in the water, it triggers them to eat.
I like.
So yeah, it wasn't on my list because I can't do it. Yeah. Over here, yes.
So you don't undoubtedly have a bunch of tanks and a bunch of species that have different pH requirements. Do you buffer your water up and down, or do you just put them on your tap water and tell them to deal with it?
The second thing. So the question. I was keeping the shell dwellers, the multis, and what I did then is I still did the auto water changes, but I used aragonite and crushed coral, so it was buffering all the time. The other thing you can do for those is you can actually put crushed coral inside the center of the sponge filter, or in a bag in the tank, and that will actually also buffer it. So. Anybody else? Yes.
You modified any of these species that you worked with?
Genetically modified or selectively bred? I always breed the best ones.
That's one part. Because I'd love to have a miniature angel.
No, I haven't done that. But best skinning, best body shape, I've done all of that. But I haven't tried to make that new fish out of a whole fish.
Totally different than trying to reach good success. Because you got to go through the generation.
Right. I I mean, I would say the best way, if you wanted to make a miniature anglerfish, you're gonna have to stunt tons of anglerfish to the point where their genes are stunted also. Yeah, yeah.
It's called runs.
Yeah, or pick the runs out, yeah, something like that. Anybody else? Yes?
I know you're very anti-snail. How many snails do you come across when collecting?
How many snails? One.
That's it?
Yeah, there's one time that I got a snail in the net. And I called Corey over right away. Because you know, he's pro snail, right?
I love snails.
Yeah, and so Corey comes over and he's like, I said, Corey, look what I got. He's like, you got a snail. I'm like, yeah, this is the first snail in 4 trips to Peru I've ever seen. And I'm not even 100% sure it was an aquatic snail. I mean, I think it might have fallen off the tree. Yeah, snails have no place in the fishery. All of our, I mean, where do ram's horn snails come from? Do they come from the Amazon? No. They come from America. Same with bladder snails, and those are not snails that are found where our fish are found. And the reason we have snails in the hobby is because the fish farms and plant farms are lazy. It's easier to let them be there than try to eradicate them. So that's my opinion. Don't put that on anything. Anybody else? Yes? Yeah. Can't hear you.
Do they chum the water when you?
Where do I dump it?
No, do they chum the water when you collect?
No. You just go in, and you hope you come out with fish. So we don't try to bring the fish out with any means of stuff like that. You just go in and hope for the best. But you know, it's rare that you dip a fish, not necessarily in the main river, because those fish could be very deep. But in any of the small tributaries, it's rare that you dip your net in and come up with no fish. There are so many fish down there. It's insane. I mean, there was one time where there was this about 3 foot round little mud puddle. There was a part of a dried up stream, but it was deep. I dipped the net in about 2 feet deep, and I literally had 14 different species in my net, including cories, pistos, pencilfish, tetras, and one clucker.
There's your tank.
Sounds like an aquarium.
Was hanging out with Ivan Mikolji, going to various waterways and stuff. He kept spitting in the water. What are you doing? You're scaring all the fish away. Oh, in the Amazon, if you do that, all the tetras come and they try to eat the spit.
I don't know.
That's
Maybe.
not CO2.
Maybe. I've never done it. So. Okay, anybody else before we go home?
Oh, we're not going home.
Oh, we're not going home. Oh, by the way, this is one of the best auction lots I've seen for any club. So you're really nice. All right, so we're good. I'll be around for a while, probably till the end, right? Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. So,
Well, someone wants to entertain you if you want to go somewhere else. I guarantee you that much.
there you go. All right. Take this thing off.
Please stay in your seats for a second. Everyone, do this like 3 and a half.
Okay, no one go anywhere just yet. Thanks so much once again, Dean. Like you said, he is going to be hanging out here, so if you have more questions, things you'd like to talk to him one-on-one about, feel free to see him. Remember to keep it pertinent. If you ask him a question that he doesn't want to answer, the other people in the room are going to mock. All right, so another thing that we're doing this month is the swap meet. That is the 28th. The 28th of the month. We will be back there, around the outside. We're in the back alley here. We'll be setting up easy ups and stuff. We did figure out the water situation.
Try to remember your own dechlor and all those things, but we will have access to water for sure. If you need a table still, please see Jan. Is she there right now? She's not